from Fox. Netflix's Sins of Our Mother tells the story of Lori Vallow's descent from a loving mother to a murderous member of a doomsday cult. It's a long and drawn-out story that has garnered national attention since 2019. It also has ties to the Phoenix metropolitan area as well. Joining us now to discuss that is an investigative reporter from Fox 10 in Phoenix who's been on this story from the very beginning. That's Fox 10's own Justin Lum. And Justin, you're featured in this documentary as well in bits and parts because you have been on this story from the very beginning. And so did you ever imagine when you got light of this story, when it became a big story, that we would be here today? This documentary is debuting today. Walk us through how we got to this point.
Well, Andrew, first off, thank you for having me. It's crazy to think nearly 3 years ago, really, our coverage began right here in this building. And we knew something was different about this case as we put the pieces together and the names and the players involved. We had to put it all out on a whiteboard. And slowly we realized that this was going to become a national case, getting national attention, already spanning multiple states: Arizona, Idaho, and Hawaii. So here we are now. A lot has transpired. As you said, this has been a drawn out, twisted saga, and Lori Vallow and her husband, Chad Daybell, are now awaiting trial in January 2023, accused of murder and facing the death penalty due to their connection, alleged connection to the deaths of her 2 children, his first wife as well, Tammy Daybell. It is one bizarre case.
So Justin, the documentary presumably goes into who Lori Vallow is, how she got affiliated with some of these really, really nefarious ideas. They say she joined a doomsday cult. But throughout this, you see her back then really as a mother. So where did that turn?
Well, Sins of Our Mother says it all. This is going to show you the perspective of her firstborn child, her son, Colby Ryan, who lives here in Arizona and really was going through all of this as he found out his 2 siblings were missing, not understanding what his mother was doing at the time, where she was, and why she wasn't cooperating with authorities, including the FBI at the time. So you're going to see that perspective of her son trying to figure all of this out as this case unfolded, as well as even her parents, other family members that were trying to figure, how this all transpired, how this unfolded, and how she was starting to follow and, become so engulfed in the beliefs, the alleged beliefs of Chad Daybell, who she really had been admiring from afar because he was a doomsday author years ago when she was still married to her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. So there was this admiration a long time ago before they eventually had an affair and got married.
Okay, so Justin, originally they were adherents to the Mormon faith, and then you kind of, in the reporting you've done and what's showcased in the documentary, it kind of shows the deterioration and the descent into some of these conspiracy-related theories and beliefs, about doomsday, about the end of the world. And so Charles Vallow was her 4th husband. Chad Daybell, her 5th husband, who is concurrently having his own trial and going through. He is so connected to this. But you've spoken to so many of the friends of this couple, of the people who are involved in this, of the family members who also Netflix spoke to. Are they glad this documentary is out there? Were there some hesitations? Was there some reluctance? Or did they want this story to be told?
Well, that's a good question. I definitely have to catch up with those people and find out how they're feeling about the release of this docuseries. But I know they've always wanted the attention on the victims throughout this whole process. They want their stories to be told, specifically J.J. Vallow, Tylee Ryan, Tammy Daybell, and Charles Vallow, who really you're going to see a lot of through body camera footage that we had been uncovering through this case, where he is literally pleading with Gilbert police multiple times. Charles Vallow really opened up this case from the dead, because when we found the divorce papers that he filed years ago against Lori Vallow, he made these huge allegations that really made this case the case it is today. How she had believed through Chad Daybell's teachings, allegedly she was God, to lead the 144,000 into the New Jerusalem based on their doomsday beliefs that when the end of the world came, she would still be here along with Chad through this prophecy. And that was all laid out in the divorce papers. And this was something bigger, and then covered more with seeing this documentary about the ability to see light and dark spirits. As weird and wild as that sounds, according to emails that we obtained between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, he felt he could judge spirits based on their light or dark level. And eventually, they had come to the belief through what investigators tell us that JJ and Tylee had become dark spirits, as well as Charles. And it just, you really have to embrace what you're reading and what you're seeing as you're investigating this story to really try and understand, even though it's something you would never hear in a million years in a normal setting.
You have to suspend your disbelief and get in their mindset. It's about, led them to this. Those were their motivations. And so I was going to ask, expand the documentary out there. And it's really the facets that makes this particular story different. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting, this platform where you open up and expand that documentary universe for people who are interested in true crime and getting a little bit more perspective and more of the storytelling and the humanization of these stories, besides, the case files and the evidence that we see, but actually digging deeper and finding out how these family members affected or were dealing with all this at the time. So definitely an interesting way to do this.
Okay, so while this Netflix documentary is premiering today, the case still is ongoing. Let's talk about next steps in this. When can we expect Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell back in court? And then there's been some recent news as well with Lori Vallow's only living son, his name, Colby Ryan. And what were some of those headlines that he generated?
Well, first off, it seems like forever we've been waiting for this case to move on, move forward. Again, trial is that for January 2023. There was a delay because Lori Vallow was deemed incompetent for several months, and finally she has been determined fit for trial and able to proceed with her case, to understand the charges against her. So now she and her co-defendant Chad Daybell can move forward, and we're just waiting for this trial to move forward in Boise, Idaho. As for Lori's son, Colby Ryan, who's at the center of this case, so just a little more than a week ago, he was arrested on sexual assault charges. He was accused of rape by his wife, but since then, just a few days after, the county attorney's office did file for those charges to be dismissed without prejudice, so they can still refile charges in the future, and his case is under review, aside from his mother's internationally known case. But he filmed this docuseries a couple of years before all of this transpired, but always seems to be something going on in this realm that has to do with the family of Lori Vallow. But that's what's going on at the moment. We're just waiting for the VALLOW Daybell case trial to get on.
And Justin, you will be on it, no doubt. Sins of Our Mother premieres today on Netflix. You're featured in it. And we look forward to some of the other investigative reporting you're going to be doing. This case is not over, like you were saying. Justin Lum, thanks so much for being with us here in the newsroom.
Thank you.
So sorry about the internet. And I was muted. Fun times, fun times, fun times. It's been really sketch since Monday, and I started stress. I was like, oh my God, no, not right now. So Jason tried installing they sent us a new tower from T-Mobile. And sorry, let me adjust. Let me get comfortable. And anyways, so we were jumping hoops back here trying to get everything together because he had to call customer service, and y'all know how fun that is. He had to repeat himself a lot. So I came in here in the office early, but did me no good without internet. So you beautiful bastard. It's good to see you guys here. It's gonna lag every time I go and refresh the page on Judge Boyce's channel. So just know that, okay? But I've got to refresh it right now. Just hang tight. It was super fast, and oh, it's live. Okay. Well, where'd it go? All right. Let me be quiet. And let me share my screen. And let me mute myself. Come on. And my parents are there. Oh. I know my mom and my dad are there. So so expect that. If y'all can hear me. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Lagging to see the hagging, Lil Brand says. I know, damn internet. I swear. Ever since the hurricanes in 2020, I have had issue after issue after issue. We can't figure it out. I still don't know why it's doing the wheel of death over here. Because I can hear what's going on in the courtroom. Nothing. Just, you can hear courtroom sounds. See up here in the top right corner. I looked over to the right and I was like, oh my God, where's everybody in chat? But that's their chat. Oh my goodness. Come on. Yeah, you can hear them. I just I'd feel comfortable if that wheel of death would stop spinning. That would make me feel a lot better. Oh, I don't know, Robbie. I don't use a Oh, well, I haven't had to. I don't know. I don't know all that technical stuff. I don't even know the terms. Jason starts talking. I'm like, wait, what? My brain shuts off. Ah. Weird. Robbie, it's always, I don't know. Life gives me a hard time. I just chalk it off to that. So I just assume it's just my problem. But somewhere I have Firefox somewhere. I have McAfee or something. I don't know. Hey, Ashley Kane, how you doing? I hope all goes well too. What, Kathy? What you mean? What? I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. Here I go stuttering again. Want me to try from my end a difficult research? What do you mean? Unmute yourself. Oh, well, because you're backstage. I don't know if you could just tell me. You can open Firefox by searching. If I did all that right now, Firefox in the bottom left corner, and then just go to YouTube in that web browser to judge Boyce's channel. It may work better. I mean, it's playing. I can hear the courtroom noises. It's just not like in session. If that makes any sense. Press mute. Or yeah, turn it down. Okay.
Krisha.
Wait, you're gonna have to mute yourself. I mean, no, you're gonna have to turn the background noise off. Okay, I'm gonna unmute you now. Because I can hear me talking through your mic. Yeah, okay. Well, now I can't hear you talk. Yeah, it hasn't started yet. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody. I guess in not such a good way. Let's see. Yeah, you didn't miss. Nobody's missed nothing yet. Did you guys all watch the Sins of Our Mother Netflix docuseries? It was a lot of new stuff. And oh my gosh. Thank you, Switchback Image. That's very, very sweet of you. Thank you. Jason's tip for IT this morning. Thank you. We'll get to do it as soon as we, because we didn't figure it out before. So, because we had to wait for them to open and for customer service to open. And, or we'd have done it sooner. What was a hard channel for you to find? Crochet and Bammy. What? Is it playing somewhere else and I'm not seeing it? Hey, Ashley. Thank you so much, Ashley. So sweet. I'm there. Okay. Why is it not up here? What the hell? Man, that's going to piss me off. I'm about to yell for Jason. So y'all hold on. Because I don't know why it's showing black. So I know, Rumbo. That's who it is. That's exactly what it is. She definitely is a lemma. Is the interrupter of communications. She's earthquaking somewhere. That's what I do too, Crochet and Bammy, usually, but I can't because it's quiet. It echoes. So I have to hear it somewhere.
Krisha, am I echoing?
No, you aren't echoing. I could just hear the back.
Okay.
I could hear like your TV or something.
Yeah, I made Tom turn that off. If you want, I can share my screen from StreamYard. I think my internet connection's better.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I like this. Thank you, Robbie, for helping Kathy. You know, we streamed the Sins of Our Mother, or Kathy did, but it's just Robbie walked her all the way through it. And look at her now doing stuff through StreamYard. Yay. What a relief. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's service right there. It's exactly what I've been praying for.
Is that working?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. So hold on. Whenever it does go live though, we'll both mute ourselves as long as you're sharing your audio, you know. You know how whenever you
the audio's on the hearing.
Oh, let me stop sharing my screen.
I think.
All right, I stopped sharing mine. Okay.
Oh, I hear. Okay.
Like, okay, now hit mute. Okay, whoa. Click mute on yourself. Like mute. Let me mute. I'll mute you. I just want to make sure we can still hear the courtroom. Yeah, we can. Okay. Awesome sauce. We can still hear it. All right. And yes, teamwork makes the dream work. That's what I'm talking about.
I got
Oh, what
skills
a
I
big
didn't know
help.
I had.
Exactly. I'm like, yes, yay. I'm so excited right now, y'all, because it's such a distraction for me to sit there and have to do that, and everybody's like, it's on, it's on. I'm like, okay, okay. I freak out. I go to the whole fight, flight, or freeze. Thank y'all for the super chats, though. Ashley Kane and Switchback Image. That was so sweet. Thank you. Sorry. I have been having some allergy issues. I was kind of sick Monday. So let me mute myself so I can cough.
While she's doing that, that's what I just did. She gave me whatever cold. Well, I don't know where she went, but I have a hard time watching chat. There she is. Maybe.
You see Larry? I don't see anything yet.
I don't see anything yet.
Are you live? Are you on the live one?
I'm on the Judge Boyce's channel one. That's what's on my screen. Let me try refreshing it while it's on the screen.
Because how does Rombo, do you see Larry? Are they showing anything? Everyone sounds like Darth Vader on Voices Live. Yay. Great. Great. Yeah, they're there. Mom and Larry are there. We try not to tell everybody, for safety reasons. Oh, you think you hear him? Okay, so Rombo, I'm thinking. I don't. And so that's for a chat. I don't hear anything. But my internet sketch.
They aren't saying anything on the court thing. I'm going to check a couple other places.
I mean, that's where, but that is so.
It's weird. It's only in a corner.
Yeah.
Back in a minute.
We promise we will record that. How you doing? I'm sorry for the lagging. But isn't it? So it should be sliding on. No. Oh, great. I'm just going to mute myself then. Okay, okay, I see. Thank you.
I don't see it anywhere else either.
They're just saying I'm like a robot. That's because I'm still.
Yeah, you sound like a robot, Crusher.
Something's going on. See it up in the upper right?
Yeah.
Kathy.
Tom, I'm on the computer. I mean, people can hear me. There we go, guys. I'm going to mute myself.
All rise, this court is now set. Thank you. Please be seated. All right, we'll go on the record on case CR 22-21-1624, State versus Lori Maureen VALLOW DAYBELL. Mrs. VALLOW DAYBELL is here represented by attorneys John Thomas and Jim Archibald. State is represented by prosecutors Rob Wood, Lindsay Blake, and Rachel Smith at council table. The court understands that on motions today, those will be argued by Mr. Wood and Mr. Archibald. Court would remind the parties in attendance here that the court's order governing courtroom conduct remains in effect, including the prohibition on authorized video and photography by any members of the gallery. So anyone has a cell phone, please turn that off. You're not permitted to record or video any of these proceedings today. There are several motions or matters to bring up before the court. I'll indicate on the record we previously met in chambers briefly to discuss a few of the preliminary issues. The court wishes to put those on the record. The first matter we're bringing up, it wasn't formally noticed for hearing today, but in the interest of efficiency, I think it's worth calling it on the record. So, Mr. Archibald, there was a motion filed entitled "Motion for Defendant to Appear in Street Clothing." The state did file a notice in response to that. If you'd like to just present that on the record this time, you may.
Yes, may I remain seated?
You may, and Mr. Archibald, for you and also other counsel here, in order to best get our record with these microphones, it is best actually if counsel remains seated to speak into the microphone. So thank you, Mr. Archibald.
Thank you. Our motion for Mrs. Daybell to appear in street clothing is something that the court has granted previously. We appreciate the courtesies of the court and the sheriff in allowing that at previous hearings. We didn't actually have a written order, and so it was agreed upon between counsel that we get this in writing and also submit a proposed order. We do appreciate the court being sensitive to our client's right to a fair trial, a fair and impartial jury. Having her appear in street clothing helps with that. So would ask that motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. What's the state's response on that, Mr. Wood?
Thank you, Your Honor. As the court is aware, we did file a response that was essentially non-objection based on the circumstances of this case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wood. Court's considered that motion. Typically, that's obviously a right that's allowed in front of jurors in a jury trial to prevent the appearance of anything that would run afoul of the presumption of innocence in the case. It is somewhat unusual to have an appearance in street clothes for pretrial motions of a defendant that's in custody, as Mrs. VALLOW DAYBELL currently is. However, that's been the process we've used throughout the case. It hasn't been brought before the court for any formal ruling on that. Generally, the issue of how someone is dressed, really, for me, I defer to law enforcement and whatever they believe is appropriate for security purposes within custody defendants, based on the motion filed by the defense and without an objection from the state. I don't see any reason to deviate from how we've already handled all the prior hearings in this case. So in order to confirm that on the record, I will grant an order, Mr. Archibald, and future pretrial motions if your client so chooses, and it's permitted and allowed by law enforcement authorities that are involved with her custody and transport, that she can continue to appear in those street clothes if that's what she wants to do.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. Next motion we'll call up is the motion filed July 12th by the defense entitled motion to incorporate federal and state constitutional grounds to support or in support of future motions. Don't believe there was any specific response to that filed by the state, but I'll allow an oral response hearing. Mr. Archibald, if you'd like to present arguments for that motion this time, you may.
Your Honor, this motion is based upon the death penalty jurisprudence of the United States. As the court knows, death penalty litigation is luminous and is ever changing. In 1972, the United States Supreme Court said that the death penalty was cruel and unusually punishing. So states began to modify their death penalty statutes to conform with the United States Supreme Court's definition of what is not cruel and unusual. So since 1972, since the Vernon versus Georgia case, there every 5 years or so in death penalty litigation, there's a change of rules. The United States Supreme Court since 1972 has said no death penalty for those who are insane, no death penalty if a judge issues it, it has to be a jury, no death penalty for those who are mentally retarded, no death penalty unless there's a mitigation investigation of the defendant's life, no death penalty if the defense lawyer does not thoroughly investigate their client's life, and no death penalty for juveniles. So in our motion, we set forth several federal decisions that have been rendered regarding the death penalty in the United States. And for purposes of future appeal, we always come to prepare for the worst. And in case she is convicted, and in case there is a death verdict, this case will be on appeal for decades. And so we are making the record clear that We want all of our constitutional arguments preserved. We want all of our constitutional issues litigated in the future. Me and Mr. Thomas will not do any future appeals. There'll be other lawyers appointed to represent her case. There's a guilty verdict in case there's a death sentence. So this motion isn't just what if, it's real. And in fact, the federal judge in Idaho just ordered a new sentencing hearing for Roman Roe, who's been on death row for 30 years. And so this is an important issue. It has to do with this case because we know that 30 years from now, there's going to still be litigation ongoing. There is a death sentence. So I won't be around 30 years from now. I don't know if Mr. Thomas will, but this case will be if the state gets their request. So that's why my motion was filed. That's why it's important to us for the court to acknowledge all of her federal and state constitutional arguments are preserved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. Mr. Wood, what's the state's response on the motion to incorporate federal and state constitutional grounds, future motions of objections?
Thank you, Your Honor. Insofar as the motion is essentially a request that the court recognize that the defendant has not waived any of her constitutional rights, we have no objection to that. In regards to the practical application of it, the state does not object to it as long as the objections that are made are still made pursuant to the rules, that they state the purpose of the objection and cite to the specific authority that the defendant will be referring to.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wood. Court's considered this motion as the motion was filed on July 12th to incorporate federal and state constitutional grounds for future motions of objection. Based on the argument counsel and review of the briefly cited case law, which is substantial in terms of case law of the motion, the court will rule as follows: that in lieu of an order, I'm not going to order that there's some standing continuing objection. I'll make a express finding on the record that this particular defendant, Mrs. VALLOW DAYBELL, has not at this point in the case ever waived any constitutional rights that are provided for in the Idaho Constitution or the United States Constitution, that she continues to assert all of her constitutional rights in the case, and that will be in order that you could submit Mr. Archibald in response to your motion. As Mr. Wood indicated, if there are any still specific objections to be made on constitutional grounds, I wouldn't consider that some sort of a standing order that would relieve the defense of the duty to bring those specific objections on the record. So there would still be a requirement if you think some specific constitutional right is being infringed upon by either the state or motion of court, and those objections would need to be preserved on the record. But we'll acknowledge at this point that there's been no waiver of any constitutional right in the case. Any questions on that really, or anything I need to clarify on that, Mr. Archibald?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, thanks. That will bring us up to our third motion then. This is the motion entitled, "The Motion to Clarify Media in the Courtroom." That motion was filed on August 30th, 2022 by the defense. The state filed a concurrence with the motion on September 12th, 2022, agreeing in large part with the argument brought forth by the defense. In response then, Attorney Steve Wright also filed an interested persons third-party media response on September 8th, and the court recognized the standing of Mr. Wright on behalf of clients that were set forth in the caption of his pleading to be heard at this hearing today on the issue as well. In terms of taking up the order of that motion, that it was filed by Mr. Archibald on behalf of his clients, so I'll hear arguments for that motion first. I'll then allow the state to join in their concurrence, and subsequent to that, Mr. Wright, if you'd like to present your arguments in support of your clients that are identified, please do that. So, Mr. Archibald, if you'd like to proceed with argument this time, you may.
Thank you. This motion was filed due to what happened at our last hearing. Of course, there is no camera in front of our desk now staring at us, so I appreciate the media's courtesy not putting another camera there. I noticed that there are not any microphones attached and on this desk as they were at the last hearing, so yeah, I appreciate the media's courtesy not putting that. Yeah, that was the issue that happened at our last hearing. All of us here, the prosecutors, the court, me and Mr. Thomas, we all have the same obligation to Lori VALLOW DAYBELL, and that's to make sure that our constitutional rights are protected, including the right to a fair trial. The court, in its order governing courtroom conduct, has that as its first goal, that we need to preserve clients' defendant's right to a fair trial. The court was concerned about pretrial publicity last year, taking up the issue of the change of venue. So almost a year ago, this case was transferred from Fremont County to Ada County, over 300 miles from here, due to media exposure, due to the incessant, non-stop media exposure. It is necessary, we agree, to inform the public of what's happening in the case. Fremont County, however, is going to spend more for a fair trial because of the media's incessant, non-stop exposure of this case. So as the media exposure increases, so does Fremont County taxpayers, state of Idaho taxpayers, so does their obligation to make sure that my client gets a fair trial. So if the media saturation continues in Ada County, where are we going to go? We've already moved it 300 miles away, but the media exposure is hitting Ada County. So I've been a lawyer over 30 years. I've never had a problem with the media during any of my cases. I've never had to bring a motion regarding media about where they put their cameras or where they put their microphones. I've tried almost 100 jury trials in our district. I've been assigned to over 25 homicide cases. And the media has always been respectful. They know that I have a difficult job. I know that they have a difficult job. And we've been respectful of each other in our roles to the public. Freedom of the press is a constitutional right. It's in the Bill of Rights. And it's not infringed by limiting cameras. And we know that because the United States Supreme Court doesn't allow cameras. Federal courts don't allow cameras. Some states don't allow cameras. And so the court wants the public to know what's happening, but yet the overriding interest is a fair trial for the accused. My client in the Bill of Rights enjoys the presumption of innocence and not a presumption of guilt. The state has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to a fair and impartial jury. So because of the pretrial publicity, is that turning the tide? Will my client have to prove her innocence at a trial rather than the state having to prove her guilty? So because of the media saturation, we filed this motion for the court to take a look at its order, and how the media is acting. I've never had a problem with the media in the jury box. I've never had a problem with the media on the front row. Again, they've been respectful of me and my clients, and I've been respectful of their job. But at our last hearing, I want the court to review that. When I tried to download it on a flash drive, I wasn't able to. But the link is mentioned in the state Idaho's response. So I believe we all, counsel and I, agree that the court can look at that as to what happened at our last hearing. There was one camera on the judge, there was one camera on the courtroom, and there was one camera on Lori. Our hearing wasn't quite an hour long. It was a little over 50 minutes. And 30 minutes of that, Judge, was zoomed in on my client. What was the purpose of zooming in on her for 30 minutes? She didn't make an argument. All she did was whisper to her lawyers. What's the point of zooming in on her? There is no point. It was an abuse of the privilege that the media is given. Why did the media want to zoom in on her for 30 minutes when I think the lawyers and the judge talked for 50 minutes? The cameras were on the court for about 30 minutes. And that's, I don't know of many judges who want the cameras on them, so that's probably all right. But why wouldn't the cameras be on the attorneys for arguing rather than zooming in on my client? What was the purpose of that? She'd been in custody now for over 2.5 years. 20 months of that in a jail, 10 months of that in a mental hospital. What's the point to mock her, to make fun of her, to humiliate her? Does it have any value to the public other than to prejudice potential jurors against her? No, no value at all. So does it help the court find a fair and impartial jury in Boise when they zoom in on my client's every facial expression? No, it doesn't. The public will eventually hear of my client's mental health diagnosis. I know what it is, the court knows what it is, the attorneys know what it is. The public will eventually know that. And that there's a time and place for everything, and that will eventually be disclosed. So banning the cameras is a pretty drastic remedy in this district. And it's not the first time that the request has been made by an attorney in a high-profile case. For example, a few cases where cameras have been banned altogether. The case against Timothy McVeigh, the bombing in Oklahoma City. The case against Susan Smith for the murder of her children. The case against Richard Davis for the murder of Polly Klaas. Scott Peterson for the murder of his wife, Lacey. So there have been incidents in high-profile cases where the courts have said enough. No more cameras. We'll give the information to the public some other way other than through the camera. So I know that's a drastic remedy, and that's why I asked for an alternative in my motion. Let's go back to the way we've done it here, or at least as long as I've been trying cases for 30 years. Cameras in the jury box or on the front row, the spectator section. No humiliation, no making fun. Let's be respectful of each other, of jobs that we all have here. This case is tough enough without the sensationalization that is the potential of the media. And we certainly don't need any more drama in this case. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. Mr. Wood, if you'd like to offer the state's concurrence to this time.
Thank you, Your Honor. Anytime we're here dealing with, I guess we term tangential issue of the case, I realize think it's important to remember exactly why we're here. And we are here because Chad Mary Daybell has been indicted for the murders of Tyler Ryan, J.J. Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. They have a trial set for that in January, and as Mr. Archibald stated, they are entitled to a fair trial. And as he stated, even prosecutors who have the job of seeking a conviction also have the job of seeking a fair trial for the defendants and for the state. And this court has recognized the state also has a right to a fair trial. And what that means to the state is we want a trial that we only have to do once, where we limit to legal issues. That's important not only to prosecutors, but for the people of this state, specifically the people of Madison and Fremont County, for the living victims of this case, and to the state people who deserve that the most are Tyler Ryan, J.J. Vallow, and Tammy Daybell. So what the state is not going to, you won't hear the state, or I think anyone argue today, the media or public shouldn't have access to the courts. They should. It's an important right. The state believes in open proceedings. We strongly support and believe in the media's right to access and report court proceedings, and that has a long-standing history in case law. In regards to the last hearing, I want to be clear, the state is not alleging any malicious intent on the part of any member of the media. At some level, that is irrelevant to the consequences. The state does agree that the coverage did appear abnormal in the uneven distribution of where the cameras were focused. We think that actually has a chilling effect on future witnesses, both for the state and the defense, to know that they will be subjected to such public media scrutiny. Mr. Archibald mentioned that microphones on the council table. We think that has a chilling effect on council, so we're glad they're not here anymore. It's difficult to communicate with those microphones there, and it makes it more difficult for the parties to effectively litigate if you have to worry about someone else listening in. I would just note those microphones are not needed. There have been multiple broadcasts of court proceedings where they just looked at the audio from the court, and that has always worked fine. As Mr. Archibald talked about, venue has been changed to Ada County. At the change of venue here in the state presented evidence that Ada County is the largest media market in the state. We still believe that's the case. And to the state, this raises the question, if we change venue largely because of pretrial publicity, then continue engaging in pretrial publicity while going to the largest media market in the state, why do we change venue? Now, we respect the court's decision to change venue, we understand it. So I'm not asking that dismissively. But at some point, if the rationale for changing venue is pretrial publicity, we should limit pretrial publicity. The state is actually, at this point, even more so than the trial, concerned about the next few pretrials. What we do, and the state intends to file a 404B motion. The defense has a bill of particulars motion. These are both going to be fact-intensive motions, deal with a lot of facts of the case, need to be litigated. And again, the media has a right to be there. They don't have a right to broadcast it or have cameras. And the state believes there's a stark difference between watching a live or video of a proceeding as opposed to reading a report on it in a newspaper. One area I can disagree with Mr. Archibald. I do not believe removing cameras is drastic. The Idaho Court Administrative Rule 45 makes it clear it's at the discretion of the court. When something is so easily at the discretion of the court, I don't believe it's a drastic remedy to remove video cameras. There is some law on this issue I'd like to quickly address that was not in the state's memorandum. And there's some bright line rules here. I'm actually going to start with Richmond newspapers. versus Virginia. That's 448 US 555. And that case actually stands for the right that the media does have to access the courts. And I'm just bringing that case up because I want to reiterate that we do believe the media has the right to be here. Nixon versus Warner, 98, Supreme Court 1306. I'm just going to read a quote from the Supreme Court there. It says, while the guarantee of a public trial, in the words of Mr. Justice Black, is a safeguard against any attempt to employ our courts as instruments of persecution, it confers no special benefit on the press, nor does the Sixth Amendment require that the trial or any part of it be broadcast live or on tape to the public. The requirement of a public trial is satisfied by the opportunity of members of the public and the press to attend the trial and to report what they have observed. And so what we take from that case, there is no right, and our administrative rules back this up, there is no right to a video camera or a camera in the courtroom. And the last case I want to address, Your Honor, is Estes versus Texas. That's 381 US 532. Now, if you're going to talk about Estes, I have to acknowledge that there's been a lot of distinguishment on Estes. One is from 1965. What's interesting is that the Supreme Court in that case acknowledged that that would happen as technology changed. In that case, they were about to start a trial, and they had a 2-day pre-trial hearing on the issue of cameras in the courtroom. And so while this case can be distinguished in many ways, I think the central holding here is very applicable in this case. It says pre-trial can create a major problem for the defendant in a criminal case. Indeed, it may be more harmful than publicity during the trial, for it may well set even the opinion as to guilt or innocence. Though the September hearings dealt with motions to prohibit television coverage and to postpone the trial, they are unquestionably relevant to the issue before us. All of this 2-day affair was highly publicized and could only have impressed those present and also the community at large with the notorious character of the petitioner as well as the proceedings. I think that's directly on point with what we're doing here. Pre-trial publicity that makes a fair trial for both parties more difficult. Now, this is not the first time I've asked that cameras not be allowed in the courtroom related to this case, or at least to the facts around this case. In the concealment case, in order to prevent extra publicity, I asked the magistrate court to disallow video and broadcast of the preliminary hearing. At that time, both Mr. and Mrs. Daybell's attorneys argued that the hearing should be broadcast. I would note that Mrs. Daybell has different attorneys. In that case, at that time, and in that case, we were in a COVID lockdown, and the court made a policy decision that broadcasting was the only way to have the courtroom open to the public due to COVID restrictions. But we no longer have those restrictions. And so the state and defense are now both asking the court to limit video cameras and broadcasting. Clearly, both the state and the defense believe that continuing to videotape and broadcast these proceedings creates a large risk of unduly prejudicing the parties' rights to a fair trial. In balancing the state's and defense request and the media's objection to that request, the court does not need to do a balancing of rights analysis. The media has a right to be in the courtroom, but there is no right to video, there is no right to a camera, there's no right to broadcast. The state and defense are asking the court to limit the risk of further pretrial prejudicial publicity without harming or infringing upon anyone's rights. And we know that the media doesn't like that request. We're aware that many of the people that Ms. Blake and I represent probably don't like that request. We're aware that some of the victims in this case don't like what we're requesting. And we respect that. But to us, the primary issue, and I think the primary issue before the court is how do we get to a fair trial? Mr. Archibald did make a very good point of the cost of the pretrial publicity is imposed upon the counties of Fremont and Madison. In terms of moving the trial to Ada County, there's a lot of extra costs, and if we have to do it again, it's going to be even more costs. Your Honor, I would note, there's been a lot of issues with trial publicity in the last year. I would note that the judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case very publicly stated that he would think long and hard again about allowing cameras in the courtroom. He expressed that normally he supported that, but when he saw what was being done, he used the words, it's really quite right. And so the question before the court is, that we're asking the court to answer is the pretrial publicity worth the risk of harming both sides' right to a fair trial? We submit that it's not. Is the pretrial publicity worth having a second trial? We propose that it is not. I would like to put the focus on the case where it needs to be, on the victims, on the defendants, and on obtaining a fair trial. And so, again, we join with the defense and ask that the video cameras be removed from the court.
All right, thank you for your arguments in support of the motion, Mr. Wood. Mr. Wright, at this time, let's allow the committee on behalf of the client's attorney statement for the purposes of this issue in this case. By yourself in record, of course.
Thank you, Judge.
And clients, please, and present your.
You want me to list all of the clients you can caption?
If you would, I appreciate that, Mr. Wright.
So, thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to appear. My name is Steve Wright. I represent who I have identified as interested persons, primarily or members of the media, and they are specifically EastIdahoNews.com LLC, Court TV Media LLC, the Associated Press, the McClatchy Company, DBA, the Idaho Statesman, KSL.com, a subsidiary of Deseret Digital Media, KTVB TV, a division of King Broadcasting Company, KUTV, KMYU, CBS Broadcasting Inc. on behalf of CBS News and 48 Hours, Dateline, NBC News, Adams Publishing Group, DBA the Post Register, Sinclair Broadcast Group, KBOI, KYUU, Cable News Network Inc., commonly known as CNN, KIFI ABC Idaho Falls, MIFI CBS Idaho Falls, KXPI Fox Idaho Falls, KPVI NBC Pocatello, KIVI ABC Nampa, KNIN Fox Nampa, KXMN ABC Coeur d'Alene, KLEW CBS Lewiston, KXLY ABC Spokane, KMVT CBS Twin Falls, KBOI FM Boise, KIDO AM Boise, KBLI AM Idaho Falls, KID FM Idaho Falls, KBAR AM Jerome, KHTR Lewiston, KOZE Lewiston, KEGE FM Pocatello, KWIK AM Pocatello, KSPT AM Sandpoint, American Broadcasting Companies Inc. DBA ABC News.
All right, thank you for going through those things.
In no particular order, I might add. So,
Very well.
thank you, Judge. And I appreciate the court and recognize that it's the court's discretion to grant leave for me to present argument here and to respond, just as it is the court's discretion under ICAR 45 in responding to the motion of this agenda, which has been joined effectively by the state. Your Honor, the first thought that I had as I listened to arguments is I recognize and respect that the job of the attorneys for both parties is difficult. It hopefully goes without saying that the defendant has constitutional rights that must be recognized. I reject the argument, however, that those rights have been or will be compromised by following the orders of this court. And that is precisely what has happened. That is precisely what occurred on August 16th, the hearing specifically complained of, including the location of the cameras and the location of the microphones. Now, one party seems to apply nefarious motives to the media. The other seems to be more concerned about addressing pretrial publicity through this motion. We believe both are in error in the way that they are trying to accomplish it for a couple of fundamental reasons. Number one, the actions of the media on August 16th were in complete compliance, pre-approved by court personnel with the orders of this court. It is regrettable that counsel feels misled that they did not notice the microphones, but they were approved first and foremost. And the same is true with the location of the cameras. I would add, Your Honor, that multiple cameras in the courtroom are actually an important part of fulfilling what we understand to be the court's appropriate desire to balance. And make no mistake, it is important to balance without sacrificing constitutional rights in any capacity. It is important to balance these sometimes competing interests, or more accurately, competing desires. It is easy to say, as important as it is, that the defendant's constitutional rights are somehow jeopardized by broadcasting these proceedings. How? There is a significant difference, Your Honor, in telling this court that this courtroom should be open, but only to people who physically want to come and sit in the courtroom. Because if it's broadcast to other people, her rights are now jeopardized. The only rationale, the only logic behind that is to suppress information. And
I disagree with you, Mr. Wright.
Okay.
I disagree with that assertion.
I'd be happy to respond.
Okay, because public access is allowed,
Yes.
but sensationalism of the case is not necessarily within the bounds of what access is permitted under our criminal rules and under the constitutional right of the public to attend. And the argument made, Idaho does not have a rule that requires the courtrooms to have cameras. It's discretionary with the court, and this court makes that decision. And if I decide we won't have cameras, then people come in and watch like they have since these courts were started back before cameras even existed and televised proceedings were able to occur. And at some point, if there is so much saturation that it presents a presumption of guilt, this has been argued, I think that's entirely possible to happen in a case. And I'll just tell you, I'm quite concerned about that happening here. You've named off 35 major media organizations, which tells me that there is a huge interest in putting all of the information out to as many people as possible. And we are trying to get this case to trial with a jury. And I'm just telling you my thoughts on this. I'm very concerned that this goes beyond access. This goes to creating a financial enterprise that revolves around this case. And that's not my primary objective. My objective is to ensure that there's a fair trial for these defendants. And so you can continue with your argument, but I will tell you, I disagree with that last comment.
Well, and I appreciate that, Judge, because I may have suggested inadvertently something that I was not attempting to do. I'm not in any way suggesting anything other than what ICAR 45 requires. I'm not here to argue that somehow this court has an obligation to allow this. The rules are clear. That's not what I was trying to express, and I apologize if that's what the court interpreted. What I was trying to say, Your Honor, is that the court has balanced these competing interests. And I'm also not trying to say that somehow constitutional rights take a back seat. But there are assumptions made here that are concerning to me and that I frankly think are inaccurate. The issue of pretrial publicity, this court has addressed already and will continue to address. I understand that. But the reality is, pretrial publicity is a result of what the state has charged and the circumstances on which they base that. Pretrial publicity is not going away. So what is being challenged here is the idea that by allowing or by banning cameras from the courtroom, that it will somehow do away with pretrial publicity. My point, Your Honor, is I don't know how that can happen. And the point that I was leading to was, Your Honor, which is a more accurate description to the public, which is indisputably interesting. Locally,
Let me ask you a question. on it.
sure,
And I have not reviewed the video, and I will do that.
certainly.
And the parties, and I'm referring to the video, that's the link in a footnote in the state's response page of the last proceeding. But if as counsel argues that while arguments are being made by the attorneys, which is what's happening in the case, while that's going on, all the public is seeing is the face of the defendant, then how is that accurately portraying what's happening in the case and not just sensationalizing the case, because you're ignoring what people are saying? They can listen to it, but you're not putting the camera on who's talking. You're putting the camera on the defendant. So as they've argued, and I'll confirm whether or not that's the case, the public can gauge every single reaction for while things are being said. How is that providing accurate information more than focusing on what's being said in the actual record of the case by the lawyers?
And Your Honor, my purpose is not to bootstrap myself into arguing specific camera shots at specific times. My point is, and is to concede that this is within the control of the court. We reject that there was a nefarious motive or even action here because we just complied with what we were approved to do. Now,
And I completely agree with you on that point. I want to make clear, I have found nothing to indicate that any of the outlets in this case have failed to comply at any time with what they were allowed to do. I guess what I'm looking at this point is the result of what the current order indicates they are allowed to do and whether that needs to be restricted. So I do want to make very clear, your clients have not at any time failed to comply with any court order.
right, and I appreciate that, Judge, and that is important. But I'm also not trying to address what's been called unfettered access. We're trying to play within the rules. And we believe we are playing within the rules. Now, within those rules, which include the discretion of the court, please understand, I'm not trying to argue to the contrary. Within the rules, if the court determines a different location, a different, somehow the process needs to be altered in some way, that of course is also within the court's discretion. I do take issue with the idea that because the media has followed the rules and because there was viewing of concern, and we all know that the defendant's reaction to the proceedings is of public interest. Now, whether the court feels that too much of that occurred or not, again, we just want to play within the rules. So, but what I'm hearing is not that. What I'm hearing is, despite the actions of the media as approved by the court, being unsatisfactory, even concerning to the parties, cameras should be banned, period. And the point that I was leading to, Your Honor, is because of the pretrial publicity, which is not going away, which is more appropriate, an actual showing of the proceedings themselves under whatever rules the court determines. And I will come back to that because there are some reasons for why multiple cameras are better and fulfill the decorum of the court that this court has every right to demand and expect. But is it better to allow the proceedings to be shown in addressing pretrial publicity? Or is it better to require someone to be physically in the courtroom so that they have to report on the proceedings? There was nothing about the actions that day that interrupted the decorum of the court. And it was showing, perhaps in a way that the court will adjust, but it was showing what was going on there, including the defendant's reaction. That's my focus, Your Honor, is what we believe is an inappropriately extreme response to actions that were permitted by the court, as opposed to the court just continuing to do what it has done, and that is balance those interests that it recognizes and continues to address that in the way that it deems appropriate. Does that make sense, Your Honor?
It does.
I did not mean to suggest that this court had to do something different, but I do not apologize for the importance that the role the media plays in this, and it is easy to throw out terms. I'm not suggesting whether it's done here or not, it's up to the court to determine, sensationalizing or circus or whatever, in a proceeding that is just like this, except that it had microphones and cameras in places that were approved before. Your Honor, there are some technical reasons that I think it's also important that the court understand. And again, I hope it's clear, there was no intent to mislead. We just placed them where we were told we could. Now, as far as the microphones go, I'm advised that microphones, and as I believe the court knows, Court TV was the pool, providing the pool coverage that day. They have perhaps abilities and capabilities that local media, such as East Idaho News, who has also provided pool coverage, does not have. The locations of microphones and cameras today was first and foremost approved by the court, but also it is the resources that East Idaho News has. Court TV added additional resources, and that includes specific and precise microphones. It is important to understand, I guess, first of all, I will offer this, Judge. Court TV has the ability to provide mutable microphones. However, I also believe that argument is a little bit misleading, because the argument is made that if somebody is arguing at the table and there's a conversation next to them, that this system, the court system, could be muted to avoid catching that. But you can't do both at the same time. You can't make an argument over the microphone in counsel and mute the microphone if there's a conversation here. That's why the level of effort is put in by the media to comply with the court's order, not to find ways around it. There was that day a technical, at least one technical person, perhaps one audio, one visual, I'm not exactly sure, in real time monitoring, so that if a whisper is heard, and frankly, and if they don't know where it's coming from, all the mics get shut down. But if they,
But that person, let me ask you.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
We know officers of the court who have all of their responsibilities and duties of the court when attorneys are out there. We have clients who have the right to remain silent. What is being suggested here is that a technical person who has some training, I don't know who they are, I don't know who they're employed by, I don't know who pays them. And the suggestion that we outsource the recording outside of our own court-approved system to a third party under the good faith that they won't leak anything out if they capture the wrong thing being said, like a privileged attorney-client communication. I find that a very concerning proposition, and something, quite frankly, I can't imagine I would continue to permit, because the issue brought up by counsel about the ability to be able to have unrecorded private conversations during a hearing is fundamental to the defense of this case, and it's also fundamental to the state in order to present their case. And so no matter how highly trained or technical These people they're not court employees, they're not court personnel, they're not subject to all the rules that a lawyer would be subject to. And if they go outside of the scope of that, this information gets leaked and blasted out to, as Ms. Wong says in her affidavit, millions of people, then the bell has been rung, it can't be unrung, and we could end up with a mistrial in this case, or other consequences. And so it's a huge concern to me, and I'm just telling you, I'm not inclined at all to outsource the important responsibility of reporting to a third party with just an understanding that they're trained and they'll do the right thing and trust us.
Well, and I appreciate the court sharing its perspective. I guess I don't see it that way, and perhaps I'm missing something, because when the court grants what it grants, as far as cameras and microphones, I realize two different issues, but related. In the courtroom, it is not simply reliance on in good faith. I understand the point about if that happens, then it's out there. But there is a distinct party that is subject to the jurisdiction of this court to pay the consequences of such an action. It is not simply a reliance on good faith. They're submitting themselves to get that approval to the orders of this court and the ability and the consequences for failure to comply. I know there is a temptation, not necessarily by the court, but I know there's a temptation to assume the media is simply out to get whatever it can get. This is not, and of course I don't speak for all media. I speak for my clients, and I in particular speak for those who have been granted or even will be granted pool coverage. These are professionals. I understand, I'm not trying to quibble with the court's point about there's still third parties, but these are professionals who are among the best at what they do in difficult situations like this. The arrangement that was granted, as Ms. Wong states in her declaration, is not unusual. That doesn't mean this court is in any way bound by it, but it's not like this court is just turning over control and hoping things go well. There are professional and very directly judicial consequences if they don't follow the law and the orders of this court just as much as anyone else here. So I do respectfully disagree that this is simply a matter of turning it over and hoping things go well. And indeed, I would respectfully submit, Your Honor, both with regard to cameras and with regard to the microphone, that these microphones are more capable of siphoning out inappropriate information. As the court knows, and I stand corrected.
Who determines what the inappropriate information is? Do I get to make a determination on that? Does counsel get to weigh in on that? Or does someone that works for one of your clients or a set of headphones on make that decision? And I have no idea what their training is or understanding of the rules of evidence or the rules of privilege that exist amongst attorneys and their clients.
Well, respectfully, Judge, I don't think it's that difficult. Any communication at the table is confidential. Any notes on the table are confidential.
That's also not true, right? Because clients can talk out loud to attorneys, and if they do it in a public setting and everyone hears it, and I've seen it before in criminal cases.
Sure.
Defendant blurts something out to their lawyer. I hear it. State hears it.
Right.
They shouldn't have said it. They waived the privilege.
Sure.
So I would say there is a determination that needs to be made each time. And again, these are decisions that how am I to have faith and confidence that whoever's making that decision is making the correct legal decision?
Well, perhaps the court can help me understand. I'm a little confused by the example, because if the
Well, I was
defendant
just pointing out, you said all communications are confidential and privileged, and they're not necessarily. That's not always the case.
well, that's fine, but that's not the point. If my clients treat those, I mean, if something is blurted out and said, it's heard, it has nothing to do with whether the media had something to do with it or not. My point is that it's treated, those communications are treated as confidential, period. Period. There isn't a determination to make, oh, maybe we can listen in on this one and not that one, period. They are confidential.
So
And they're
that's
not.
a standard your client implies. Is that a written policy they have somewhere, or is that your representation after talking to them?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Judge. And it's a representation I'm happy to make after communicating with them, and would be happy to make or submit a declaration or affidavit to that effect. That I mean, as far as the cameras go, I want to make sure I'm tracking with the court's concerns, because that's what I need to address. But as far as the communications go, other than a concern that something might be overheard, that we are affirmatively telling the court will not happen. And the training, and it's not just some training, I mean, it's better training than I could do. I mean, that's the purpose. The reason for being here is to ensure that we comply with the court's order. And communications at the table are treated, maybe that's the better way to say it, treated as confidential. If they blurt something out, that's beyond your or my control. But they're treated as confidential. They are not recorded. What the court hears when it reviews that the broadcast that was submitted, I believe, by the state, it will hear what was recorded. It's the same thing. There's no editing, there's no filtering, because all of the effort is placed here in the courtroom to ensure that compliance. Does that help the court?
It does, and I do appreciate the way you answered and the responses to my questions, Mr. Wright. I'm not trying to laugh at you here. I just have some very real concerns, and I do appreciate the way you responded.
Of course, because if the court has concerns, I want to address them. I totally agree. I take no offense, and certainly hope I haven't argued with the court at all. My goal has truly been to respond to those concerns. But those concerns are based on what we think is an overbroad approach to shut down pretrial publicity and frankly to accuse the media of some wrongdoing that it simply didn't do. If the court, we have no objection to the court reviewing, it's open to the public. The court should of course be able to review that information. That's the very purpose. And if the court sees I have a concern, or even that the camera was located where it was. Again, the point is it's within the court's control. We just ask that the court continue to exercise the control that it has. The arguments, at least in part, seem to assume this court isn't in total control and these things are just kind of happening, or more importantly, might happen. And that's simply not true. This court, the media will follow what this court directs, of course. If I may just look, see if I have any other comments. I may have a moment. So I'm not sure if I addressed this, Your Honor, more of a technical aspect. With regard to multiple cameras, again, the goal is to avoid distraction. So the reason for multiple cameras, whether it be 2 or 3, we respectfully submit 2 or 3, especially as they are used, it does not create a distraction. The reason for that is our goal is not to move them. And so if the camera is showing something and say a confidential communication occurs, I've addressed already how the microphone it is shut down. And again, what happens, what's recorded is what's broadcast. So the court would know if there's a problem there. But that allows us the ability to immediately go to another camera, taken off whatever might be a confidential communication or whatever the court determines is inappropriate. And so there is actually, where possible, a need for multiple cameras because I'm sure the court doesn't want to see distracting cameras panning or moving around. And yet we need to be able to get off whatever it is that might be an inappropriate thing to show. So I hope from a technical standpoint that provides the court some guidance as well. And recognizing the court's concern about third parties' involvement, I want to point out that if the court's sound system is used, if anybody says anything into the microphone, it's picked up for better or worse. We actually have the ability to control and make sure that doesn't happen. It also, and I don't know about the quality here, I don't mean to impugn it at all, but the quality of the audio is important. FCC standards require a certain level of quality for closed caption, things of that nature. And again, these things can all help facilitate what we believe is the court's correct balancing of these interests. When I say balance, please don't misunderstand that I'm trying to say somehow the defendant's rights need to be sacrificed. What I'm saying is they can be balanced without sacrificing those rights. And I respectfully submit that going to the other extreme of banning cameras from the courtroom, whatever the court might do or was requested with regard to microphones, actually interferes with that rather than helps ensure the decorum the court demands it is in fact respected. Did I mention if at least Court TV has the ability to provide mutable microphones if that's something that the court wants. I would suggest, Your Honor, not that I don't know what relevance it has to the court, but we respectfully disagree that there was some unusual happenings that occurred. For a high profile matter, even the camera placements and the microphones, as Ms. Long states in the declaration, who's been involved in many of these matters, was not unusual. And isn't somehow binding on the court, but I just want to respond to this idea that what happened on August 16th was an atypical situation. It was a typical situation for atypical circumstances, if I may put it that way. I guess in conclusion, Your Honor, I am concerned when this motion is used as a means to attempt to curtail pretrial publicity, when the United States Supreme Court has indicated that there are other means to do so. And I know the court knows this because the court has thoroughly considered those issues in the decisions that it's made. The pretrial publicity won't stop. The accuracy of what happens in here or how it's reported may be hindered.
What about the volume
Of the interest?
of the publicity?
Again, I'm not sure.
In other words, if you can read about a hearing in the newspaper versus watching it live on social media, what do you think is the volume of one versus the other?
Well, I guess that's what concerns me, Your Honor, is when the purpose is to control the spigot in a way that says, well, we'll be able to tamp it down this way, because if we do it this way, more people will watch. The level of interest, it is not based on the media. It is based on the circumstances. And I respectfully submit to the court that when the court looks at trying to
Go
go ahead.
The media, they promote certain stories. I know this. I can have a routine standard hearing. In this case, I know it goes out on tons of media outlets and it's publicized everywhere and it's promoted. And 2 weeks ago, I have a change of plea hearing in Madison County where someone pleads guilty to a murder charge. Not one reporter or that I ever saw in the local news. I occasionally look at a story on it all. So sure, certainly publicity and promotion of that publicity go hand in hand. And the concern here again is we're not to trial yet. We've already had to transfer the venue because of the publicity and the promotion of that publicity. And what's wrong with considering that we need to try to control that so we can get a jury pick that hasn't already made up their mind and make us have a mistrial for not having enough jurors that haven't already been tainted by pretrial publicity.
Well, of course, the court is correct in its concerns, and I don't have any argument with that. My concern is in the way that the court's concern is addressed. Simply assuming that because there is publicity, even internationally, an Ada County jury can't be found, I think is a reach. Other than just the general premise that the more people hear about it, the more possible it is that there will be people that have prejudged the case. That's like taking a sledgehammer to an issue where a scalpel is appropriate. And so I recognize the concern. You're not quibble with it at all. My concern is with the manner in which it is addressed. And I do respectfully come back to the idea to say, well, if you want to know about this case firsthand, then you must physically come here. Otherwise, you'll rely on the reporting, which won't be as accurate by definition as the firsthand experience, which is within the control of the court. Have I responded to the court's question?
You have.
Okay. I appreciate again the court's time. We respectfully request that this motion be denied because the power always has been within this court and has been appropriately exercised. And if the court determines there's an adjustment on fine tuning some of the things that it will permit, we respect that. Our concern is what we think is a vast overreaction to appropriate prudent conduct of the media that will hinder what we still feel is an important function that doesn't have to be sacrificed to ensure the defendant's constitutional rights. Does the court have any other questions for me?
I don't, Mr. Wright. I appreciate your professional and your arguments today, responding to questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, Mr. Archibald, Mr. Wood, the court engaged in quite a few questions with Mr. Wright and indicated some of my expressed concerns here. If you'd like, I would offer you an opportunity to respond. So they will have a rebuttal argument if you like to what Mr. Wright's offered here. Mr. Archibald, is there anything further to look at?
Just briefly, Your Honor, the media's argument that we were in compliance with court orders is exactly the problem, because the orders weren't specific enough as to what they could do and not do. So we let them police themselves. And when we let the media police themselves, what did they do? They put microphones on our tables, put a camera right in front of us. It had not been done in the other hearings, which I have never seen. And so that's why our motion to clarify, so that the court can, as Mr. Wright suggested, take a scalpel to this order and say no cameras zooming in on the defendant, no microphones on the table, no live feed. The court does have the discretion to modify these current court orders. These current court orders are forms. They're used in routine cases. And again, I've never had to ask for a modification because we in the past have been respectful of each other, and they just crossed the line last hearing. That's why I brought the motion.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. Mr. Wood, would state my comment about
Just briefly, Your Honor, to the state, compliance isn't the issue, it's just the effects back to trial publicity. At one point, I think Mr. Wright did say that the harm was an assumption. Well, it's not an assumption. The taxpayers in Madison and Fremont County were paying a lot more for this trial because of pre-trial publicity. That is not an assumption. And so I do take issue with that. Well, I won't comment on the issue with the microphones anymore. I think the court's comments show that it understands at least our concerns. I guess the only thing I would add is if the state still believes that the best remedy is simply to remove video cameras from the courtroom. If the court decides to take a different approach, we would request that the state and the defense be put on notice as to the location of the cameras before any hearing takes place.
All right, thank you for your comments, Mr. Wood.
I just didn't have permission to be excused unless the court was going to rule for me.
I don't intend to rule from the bench, Mr. Wright, so you need to be excused. Thanks for your grace.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Council, I've considered this issue needs to be under advisement because it would result in a ruling regardless of future effect on how these proceedings take place, and needs instruction on what we will or won't allow in terms of cameras and like third parties and corporate for future proceedings. I'll be considering that both in the context of pretrial motions and the trial itself. I'll carefully consider these issues that have been raised, and the court will issue a decision. That concludes our hearings for this morning. And Mr. Archibald, anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Archibald, Mr. Wood, anything further from the state today?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks everyone for this. All right.
Holy crap. It's over. It's over. Thank you, Kathy. Kathy? Here you are.
I are here.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for saving the day.
Hey, no problem.
Oh my goodness. I really didn't get to watch much because I was, restarting my computer and everything. It's still giving me problems. So I'm on my mobile device right now. But I caught the end of it. What do you think? What are your what do you think?
This was the stupidest motion hearing I've ever heard. Joyce, I can talk, you guys. Boyce made up his mind prior to this.
I concur. I feel the same way. How many of you guys feel the same? Yeah. A lot of people, I was reading the comments, of course. People were in agreement that you made up. And that's concerning to me.
It's scary.
It's concerning. The balance, my murdered family members' justice is on the line, not Lori effing Daybell. You know how last time they were like gonna oh my gosh, I can't talk either. Her attorney Thomas, and he was like, a life isn't is on the line here, and who? No, they made that choice. I mean, if she wouldn't have, oh my God, I thought if she everything because she's so god freaking extra. She's so freaking extra. Made it this. Nobody else did this. Her and Chad did this single-handed. Opinion. I'm
Breathe, Krisha.
That's what it is. I can't breathe.
I know. It's just that they have more rights than the people that were murdered.
Yep. And it really sucks. I'm learning that. Learned that the hard way. That we don't get a say so, and we're the ones who are left here to pick up all the pieces. You know, we have to look at this. They're dead. They didn't dead. They didn't. You know, Tylee didn't fall apart on Chad's property. I'm sorry. I'm a little. It's the truth. I mean, it's gruesome. I didn't do it. They did it. It's gross. It's horrible. It's horrific. And the things they did to these innocent victims and these babies. Tylee would be 21 wait, 20 this month. And she won't be here. She's not here now. JJ's not here. Charles is not here. Tammy's not here. Joseph Ryan's not here. They're not here. And it's just infuriating to me. And it is fishy. I agree with you, Debbie Bukes. It is fishy. And I don't like it. I haven't liked it for quite a while, you know. But I mean, I live in Lake Charles. I live on a fixed income. It's not as if I can just jet set over there anytime I feel like it, anytime they feel like blinking, you know. And honestly, the way the case transpired, the way it did in the media and everything is the only way I have been able to keep in touch with what I have. And
Sorry, guys.
coronavirus and everything, I have to say the silver lining in that for me was that they started doing Zoom hearings and everything like that. So in that sense, it's because of the coronavirus that kind of allowed me to take part in this. So if they want to shut that out, I don't know. I feel defeated. Big time, you know?
I agree, sweetheart. And we wouldn't all know about it if it wasn't for the media.
Right.
We wouldn't be here to support you and to help you and to go through this with you.
Yeah. It's just so, I don't know. I mean, it costs so much money for a plane ticket and to stay in a hotel and to eat and travel. You know, you have to have a rental car when you're there. It's so much. I can't even fathom the amount of money they don't pay. I don't even know if I'm considered a victim, you know, I don't know. It's very weird. And as far like, what do I have to do to, I guess, recognized as a victim? And then even when they don't pay for anything, but I want to be able to make a victim impact statement. I want to make sure that I jump through all the legal hoops I need to, in order to be considered or seen, you know. It just really sucks. And I do feel like Judge Boyce had his mind made up well before this happened. From what I understood, it seemed like Archibald was just worried about the damn front camera and the microphones, right? I mean, can he tell her her damn face? If she wouldn't, I mean, Chad, I mean, he just looks like a damn lump on a log, you know? Nobody really calls all this out. And I mean, right there with y'all. I mean, we did that little roast and everything. It's because she's infuriating because she goes in there and she makes all these freaking faces. Fix her face. Fix her face. Put a freaking rag, those things on their head so that, you know, the ones so they don't spit. put bell on her head. Oh,
Well, they can do it. The way boys should do it is one camera in the courtroom, no mics on the defense or prosecution table, and if they're worried about Lori, only show people testifying and attorneys that are up on the at the stand giving their statements that they make. Simple.
yeah. It very, very, very. People make it complicated. It's not complicated, but people make it complicated. And I just want to say thank you, Sand. Thank you so much. Means a lot. But people make it complicated, and people with ulterior motives, with things to hide. In my opinion, this is just how I see it. Turning into, I see us whenever the church, and I mean, I know I hate to say it, but I have to. I have to. And I know it's going to offend some people. And I mean, I can't help it. I can't keep going around everything, you know, especially when expressing how I feel about it, because I'm very considerate of people's feelings and beliefs, and I get it. But just please try to see it from my standpoint, where it's not okay. It's not a coincidence, in my opinion, that those letters telling its members not to, or whatever, whatever, not to just go and talk to law enforcement about this. Talk to the church, which is the LDS, but Curtin McConkie. Talk to them first, you know, and so to me, that sucks right there. That sucks bad, because there's people that maybe would have come forward but didn't, or maybe they did, but it got intercepted, just like the LDS helpline. Okay. I mean, I've seen it. I saw that transpiring and I was like, this is really messed up. Because I know this helpline is being, you know, called out or whatever, um, in with the SA cases, those, you know, with them stepping in, the helpline stepping in and kind of intercepting the people's accounts of abuse.
Yeah.
Okay. When they had Lori, allegedly, when they got rid of Mark Means, this is where I'm sad. I'm sad about Mark Means in this aspect, because he was going to buck against it, and the court, y'all, this court right here that we're dealing with right now, they silenced him because he was just becoming a little too loud. I know we didn't like him, but I liked him in that aspect. I liked that he wasn't, um, well, he thought he was, but still, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It just is so tangled in that helpline and everything. I feel like there is influence. I feel like and this is just me. So y'all, please just hear me out. Whenever they came out with the allegations, Mormons came out with the allegations that an IDHW employee got Lori to call the LDS church helpline to, I guess, get a attorney or whatever the hell it was. I don't even know what it was. It's irrelevant, I guess you can say. But I feel like I feel like that person was put in that place to do that. You know, that's the weirdest homework I've ever heard in my life for somebody who's incompetent. And I feel like that was a setup, in my opinion. I can't help how I feel and how I see it, and I study it, I watch it, I pay very, very, very close attention to this, because my family's justice depends on it. Because they're not here, their blood was spilled, not any of these MFers, none of them. They're all still getting paid, all still getting their stories, they're all still getting what they want. It just but God forbid that bad light, then don't put yourself in a bad light. And I'm sorry, but that is just, that's raw emotion, you know? Don't do, or don't act weird. Don't be sketchy. That's my opinion. That's my advice. Okay. I'm
I think
going,
that's a lot of our advice, Krisha.
yeah. You know, it's hard to point out things when I know that um it's gonna hurt people, and hurt people, you know? People don't want to hear the truth. I don't like it myself. It's very disheartening. It bothers me that any church would be this much of an influence. What if it was any of you guys' family members, even especially if you're in the LDS church, and especially if you are a member of the church. You know, I'm not asking for you to change your faith, or I'm just asking for your empathy, you know, just change places with us for a minute. And how would you feel um if that helpline wasn't really so helpful, or it is just not for any victim ever? um and so from the outside, yes, it flies because people um I tell you, okay, I just saw Tina's comment. Oh, and I lost my train of thought. I don't know. It's not helpful, and it is an influence. It's in a highly populated well, it's a high LDS population, you know, and that, I mean, that matters. I didn't know that mattered in the beginning. I didn't know all that, you know, I didn't understand. And then, but it becomes politics. It becomes a politicking nightmare. And that's one thing I didn't know about, or two things I didn't know about religion, or mainly LDS religion, and I didn't know about politics. And I'm learning. It's like a crash course.
For all of us.
I predict the same thing, KJ. And I'm gonna predict me having a freaking tantrum. Oh my God, I'm gonna nut up. Straight out. I'm gonna nut up. Just, I don't know. It's weird doing this I'm sitting here with my microphone by my face. Yeah, but I'm talking to y'all through my damn mobile device. Ain't that some shit?
Habit, my dear, habit.
Anyways, uh, me too. I second that. Thank y'all so much for the super chats. I don't even. I was trying to look away from it, get a thought out. Thank y'all so much for that, for the super chats, for being here, for y'all being here week in, week out, day in, day out, text by text in those stupid documents, following this story, because it's not our stories. It's not the media stories. It's not Lori Hellis's story. It's not Judge Boyce's story, or East Idaho News, or the damn state of Idaho courts news. This is Tylee, Charles, Tammy, JJ, and Joe's stories. Nobody else's. It just sucks that it lies in their hands, and that bothers me, because not everybody has the same um not everybody has the same what am I trying to say? Um I don't know. I don't know what word I'm trying to say. Oh, not yeah. Everybody has different motives. Everybody has different reasons for this, and that's if everybody wants to know uh, about Hellas, it's because I feel that she is not. Maybe she's appearing to be a victim's advocate, but I've got plenty of reasons that one day I'll be able to share. I can't do that now. Um, she's not a hero. There's no heroes in this story except for Charles, Tylee, Tammy, and Joe. Those are your heroes. Um, there are none in the story, and anybody that has an interest in writing a book and or uh, anything, okay, it's not about the victims. It's about, hey, I just want to, get those documents, and I really can't wait to, just unredact them and fill in words that I don't even know are there yet. So what? Oh, so we can pump some money into our YouTube channel and our Patreon and sell, money, money, money. I'm just, it makes me livid, y'all. And I sit on that all the time, and I try not to do what I'm doing right now, but here I am doing it. I'm just tired. It's bullshit. And, um, it's difficult because I, there are many times I would like to share the things that have been done to me personally and to people around me personally, within my circle who are affected by this, by their actions and stuff. And it's like allowing me to continue to do what they do. And it's been hard to just lay here and just kind of be quiet and not even be able to really tell my parents, Um, I just sit there and kinda I just pray to God. I'm like, "Please, please, please, please wake up and see what's going on." That's all I can do, you know? So, um, I don't think it's cool to use people, especially murder victims. This is Murder Awareness Month. Um, we it doesn't bring them back. Yeah, yeah, I mean, you know, sh Ellis's argument is, "So I can tell their stories." I mean, is it that? Because I just don't feel that, and I haven't, and I've tried. I've tried. I'm like, "Well, maybe I'm just being too biased," Maybe it's just me.
It's
But
not just you.
I know that, and so it's, um it's very troubling. Um, and my mom did teach me something, long ago, and it comes into play more and more as I get older. And I'm grateful for that. She always would say, "What is their end game? What," and if you think about it from that aspect, what are their motives? What are they looking to gain and or lose from this? Anybody from Judge Boyce's perspective, what is he looking to gain and or lose? The media company, um, what's his end game? What is his interest in this? Is it really for right? I mean, if you just question these things per person, and then you listen to what they're saying, and then you watch what they're doing, and if those things don't match up, here's your sign, you know? And it's just as plain as day, a lot of these things. And it sucks. It sucks. Um, it's it's just not right. So I agree with that, KCL, you know. I mean, he says he wants to prevent a mistrial by not allowing cameras. But what he says and what he does are gonna, that's gonna be the deciding factor here. Right. Me too, Rebecca. I held it in for so long, and I'm still, I will write a book, and it'll go to, memorializing, and honoring the victims, and I mean, that's not what it's for. That I'm not saying I'll write a book. I'm just saying, um, I just lost it just like that.
That's
Um,
okay. This is emotional, what they're
it
trying
is,
to do.
and there's so many different levels of it. There's so many different, like, the onion layers, It's like in the beginning of this is from my perspective. So I saw it as, those Facebook groups and everything and all that. Those were, instrumental. They were so helpful. You can use social media as a tool and it can bury you, or it can, really, really help you get far and learning things. And in this case, it was to find Tylee and JJ. That's what it was all about. Where are the kids? Where are the kids? Where are the kids? And it was so confusing. And, to hear this talk of coming out of Lori, allegedly, from my uncle was talking from his grave. And nobody wanted to hear his crazy because he sounded crazy. And I empathize with him so much because it is hard to describe somebody else as crazy. And it worked. Very much so. It worked in the Daybell, in Lori and Chad's favor. I don't want this to follow suit with that, It does suck that what do you call them? The defendants, I guess, they have more of a voice. They have more rights than any freaking body else. And it pisses me off also.
Me too.
I mean, our judicial system is broken. Was it ever? Was it ever not broken? That's a serious question. Like, I really don't know.
It's been broken for a long, long time, but because we have social media and things now, we're seeing it more and more.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I agree. And, I don't even know, Missy Bancroft. She says Lori will complain no matter what because she is 100% guilty. I mean, and I don't even know if she's complaining. I don't, I just think I don't think she was like, oh my God, they're just, how would she know that? How would she know people are calling her out? Telling it
Only
like
if
it.
her attorneys are telling her. But you got to remember this, guys. When she walks into the courtroom, the first thing she does is look for the cameras.
Every time. KJ, yeah, I didn't really pay attention to that till I heard KJ say it one day, and I was like, oh, she does. She pin and then she works it. That's what she does. She works her jelly. You know,
That's what she's good at. That's her thing.
all she's ever done.
Do you?
Like
KJ
that.
wants to come on. Do you want to let her on?
Sure, but I'm doing it from my mobile, so I don't really know how. I don't really know how to work it from my mobile. So
All right, I'll send her the thing.
thank you. I'm just like, oh, I started to panic.
Relax.
Just me. That's just who I am.
I
You
know
know,
that.
I'm like, oh wait, I gotta what? I freeze. She is a camera hound. Yes, it is her MO. I agree with you, KCL. Definitely, definitely. Thank you, Medea. I've been sitting on that since the murder indictments dropped. That's how long. I've also had that layer to deal with. That's what I was talking about. The when the case first was unraveling, where are the kids? The Facebook groups, I looked at them as like a layer of protection between me and the bad people. Whomever the bad people were, know who this cult. I didn't know. And we still didn't know. We still don't really know. And once Alex died, they were with their security and everything, and she said, "Oh, well, I mean, Hitman's dead." And I was like, "Well, what about the rest of them?" And it every day play out in the headlines. Every single day we see school shootings, we see shootings, we see just nothing to do with guns. People kill people, in my opinion. But hey, that's how I feel about it. Anyways, I always feel like I have to like put all these disclaimers, so that's why I get distracted so much, because I don't want to piss people off. But anyways, so we have all these horrible, violent crimes taking place every single day. And I don't know what these people will do. I don't know what people will think, how they feel. And there's people that still support Bill, okay? And I mean, being compassionate is one thing, but supporting is another, in my opinion. But that's troubling to me, because what are they defending? A murderer? So these are the people that I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just like your safety depends on it. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. Did you? Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, take things off. I'm going to add KJ. And then I'm going to mute my mic.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy. You
I
rock.
love you, sweetheart. You know that. And everybody here in chat, and everybody listening, and everybody supporting my dear Krisha.
Y'all are awesome.
Okay, here comes KJ.
Hey.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Oh,
Can
I'm
you
sorry.
hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, folks, in the last, since this hearing has just gotten through and Crescia's talked about her feelings and all of that, I want y'all to understand something. Every time we see a hearing, these victims' family members have all of this going on inside of their heart and mind. And Crescia, for you to explain all that and to share that part of yourself with all of us, it kind of overrides this feeling I'm having about all this with Judge Boyce and this whole case. And I've never thought I'd say this, but I'm so discouraged at this point.
Yeah. Yep. It sucks.
And you see Kay and Larry in the courtroom. They've had to travel from Louisiana. And they were up there. And I know you'd be right there if you could.
If I could afford it, yeah. I would.
And that is why it is so important that we do all we can for trial court costs for you, Crescia. I am an advocate for that. I want to thank all of y'all that have donated to her and continue to be emotionally and morally supportive. But I'm just going to tell y'all right now, there was definitely a desire from Archie there to put Lori in the lower chair. She's hiding behind him today. She ain't up there bouncing up and down. She's not there in her ponytail holder. She's was in a pink shirt that was like almost like a light colored pink, which speaks to me. Then you've got the screen of Judge Boyce in front of him. It almost came off as they're trying to punish people for wanting to get justice for these damn victims.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so mad. I'm trying to hold back, but it just upsets me.
That's a good point. That really is a good point. It looked like when you go in those convenience stores and they're hidden, they're behind the bulletproof glass or whatever.
And
Is
then
that
they get some fella up there representing this right fella, 30 media organizations. And honestly, y'all are probably not going to agree with this, but when he sat there and read off every damn one of them that wants to make money off this case, and don't get me wrong, I want cameras in the courthouse now. Back
right?
when Rob Wood last year didn't want that at Chad's preliminary hearing, I told y'all, some of y'all that know, I said, man, if this blows up too big, this is going to cause issues. And what did it do? It caused a change of venue, which was another pushing the time back thing. Now you got Judge Boyce coming out of the gate, acting like, somehow that, that this is all just overwhelming him. And don't get me wrong again. I have full faith and confidence in Judge Boyce.
It's a job. Sorry. Feel like I have to.
I think people need to understand that he does absolutely. Judge Boyce has peer review. He's got other judges that are helping him through this, as well as any judge on a high profile case would have. And because Judge Boyce hasn't tried a high profile case before, it just means that he wants to make sure. And I know that I knew the state was going to do this. When the state and defense is agreeing, and it is part of the case law in Idaho that there is no right, absolutely no right for the media to be in those court hearings. And then you got Kathy Mama Bear talking about what they're doing over there in Ohio with the Wagner case.
Yeah.
I wish I could sit here and cheerlead and say everything's going to be fine, y'all, but that's not what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah. I try to stay with this attitude. Yeah, I try and just say there's no way God will allow so much there's already wrong and bad, and it's like everybody just has their own agenda. And again, what's their end game? Is it really to get justice for the victims, or is it self-serving?
Well, I would say common sense says it's self-serving. And let me tell you what, they've got a court hearing coming up in October. I think it's October the 13th for Lori Hellis. And a lot of what this judge decides today is going to, folks, let me just tell you, she's going to be at that hearing October 13th, and she's got the interested parties there. She's got the prosecutor, she's got John Pryor, and she's got Archie there with Thomas. And all of them are the interested parties. And the question is are they going to agree with Lori Hellis that all this stuff should be unsealed? Are they going to disagree with Lori Hellis? And the judge is never going to rule in favor of Lori Hellis. Basically, this is my opinion, and I want y'all to hear me on it right now. They're going to chew her up and spit her out October the 13th.
I mean, they're already bucking against freaking cameras being in the courtroom, much less her. My thing is okay, let's say the judge gives why are we even saying Lori Hillis? That's first off. Okay.
Right.
Interjected. What is Julie wrote? Interjected. People who need attention, I guess. And or some sort of my way of thinking of it is it's like publicity, you know.
Well, I can tell you right now, there have been more than one person say that Lori Ellis is there to speak for so many that want transparency. She don't speak for me.
No, me neither.
She doesn't speak for me. And like you said, she is not a hero. And she's going to have her 5 minutes, and I hope they do put cameras on her October 13th, because she's going to see that this is nothing to play around with in terms of writing a book, or I want to get my money back because I've filed paperwork in this case. I've intervened in all this, and I've spent a lot of time and effort doing this, and I turned in the first filing and it was all wrong. So I went back and I corrected it because Judge Boyce directed me to correct it. Oh yeah. And so the bottom line is this. It's disgusting. And that's just my opinion.
I'm trying not to cuss. Yeah, I almost did. And I was like, I'm glad it didn't pick me up. Yeah. And so many people were not seeing it though from whenever, I mean, she came onto my radar, and I've got my proof. I've got my receipts. Plenty. I've got plenty. And all I do is just I take it, and I take it on top of everything else that's just as triggering, and it's just a distraction. But it came onto my radar when the charges dropped. The worst freaking month of May, it was my birthday, May 3rd, Tammy's birthday, May 4th. And then they charged Chad and Lori. Well, they charged Chad for sure. They indicted him, the grand jury. And then Lori shows up in court. My parents, they went to be there, and I wasn't able to be there. It just, so many things were going on at the same time. We had the Awen Reese thing happening. Okay. And I was just I didn't even want to breathe. Like I was like, I don't even want, I don't know. And I mean, not thinking suicide or anything, but I don't know. It's a whole nother level that I don't really know how to communicate. It was just the worst time in my life, it seems,
Well, I can
and it
tell
was
you right now. Yeah, I can tell you this right now. It was a good thing that Kay and Larry were there today, but there are a
yeah,
lot of victims' family members that are not able to attend. And if they take the cameras out of there, I'm going to be raising all kind of hell. I told all of y'all, if they take the cameras out of there, I'm out of this, because that is going to torture these victims' family members if they can't see this. Cresha and her family live on a fixed income. There are other victims' family members that cannot jet up to Idaho.
yeah. So many more. That was kind of one of the main reasons for me even starting this YouTube channel. Was to be heard, because a lot of people, they take it as at face value. I've been noticing a lot of YouTube channels coming out and they cover the story for what, yeah, okay. And I mean, they just give you that's more for the
Hello?
Crush K, did your phone die?
I guess. Can you hear me, Kathy?
Crush K, did your phone die?
I guess. Can you hear me, Kathy?
Wait a minute, I gotta mute my TV. Yeah, I can hear you. She just went
You can
out.
hear.
She's
Did
coming
Cresha?
back.
Okay. I thought I'd
You can
been
keep
cut
talking,
off.
KJ.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that if any, when Crusher brings up about other people covering this case, I've covered this case, but I have not monetized. I have cut all my bids as soon as the ads start running. I have made myself very clear that I want justice through understanding. And if it can help someone to understand something, that's fine. If not, then that's okay too. What I'm saying is that when Crusher speaks of other channels, when she speaks of other channels, and these other channels are not victims' family members, and they are getting whatever they're getting out of it, then
Self-promoting. They're getting Dateline interviews. They're getting notoriety. And I'm sorry. It's like I hear one thing and I see another. I hear what I mean, well, I say can use in the court of public opinion. No. No, I mean, last night is a. I mean,
you're breaking up.
So I'm
well, you got 30 media organizations, and they're sitting there, that right fella's talking about, well, we can provide you with this and we can provide you with that, Judge Boyce. These people are not coming into the courtroom. These cameras and stuff are not coming in there just for transparency. And they're coming in because they want the viewership, basically.
Money is the root of all evil.
And the only money that should be made for anyone is the victim's family members. And some people would be like, well, it's a capitalist nation and all this and that, but
reality,
y'all, let's just get real. I mean, when we saw that last hearing of Lori, it was so, I mean, she deserved every bit of it. Don't get me wrong, but they were right there. And and I know, if you really, really want to look at the honesty of it, the bottom line is they put that camera up on Lori every second. Was it 30 minutes? So the media screwed themselves, basically.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm having all kinds of problems back here. Not today, Satan. Not today.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now that Judge Boyce, in my opinion, and this is just mine, and I want y'all all to come back and say, KJ, you was wrong. Because I can admit when I'm wrong, but my opinion is he's going to take the cameras out of the courthouse for the trial. That's my opinion. That's what I think's going to happen. Because
I want cameras. I want cameras. To answer Marlene, we do want cameras.
Well, you can't back up now. I mean, Judge Edens, I said Judge Edens allowed it initially.
Yep.
Then Boyce took it over.
Mm-hmm.
And he himself has allowed cameras in. And now he's going to about face. And the only excuse he has now is what the media pulled at Lori's last hearing. That's the only thing. And he says he's going to watch that whole unedited thing of Lori's hearing. And he's going to make a decision based on that, based on the arguments from the state and the defense that agree that there shouldn't be cameras. And then you got Wright over here talking about the fact of the matter is that there is no right for cameras in the courtroom in Idaho.
Right. Okay. I need to watch it because, I was having so many issues back here. And so, okay, but so this is from, well, I mean, I streamed it from Judge Boyce's damn channel.
Right.
So what the F?
Well, he's probably on a bare bones level. He's probably already seen all the coverage, but he has to state it publicly in this hearing that he's going to review it.
Yeah.
The bottom line is today I took a signal from Judge Boyce when he had that big screen in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe he is sending a signal, Cresha, and I hate it because I'm going to tell you right now, it's not fair to you. And it's not, I mean, if no one else, if no one else got to see the cameras in the courthouse, they should at least have a camera so that the victim's family members can pick it up.
So we can attend Zoom via Zoom or something.
Right. It
I was
does.
thinking about that while it was going on. I was like, I wonder if that could happen, I mean, punish the damn whomever, did the wrong thing. Punish them. But don't punish, everybody.
And you see Lori's demeanor today, okay? She was not hopping around. She did a little smile in there for a few minutes, but she wasn't like she was last time. They must have got a hold of her and told her to settle her little ass down. The bottom line is if she would have been acting like that and she'd been positioned like that in the last hearing, none of this shit would ever happen. Excuse my French.
Oh, it's excused. And yeah, again, I didn't get to watch it all, but and hear it all. But I mean, I knew that the way she acted in the courtroom the last time,
She
she'd
wanted it.
scanned her eyes over to see if my mom and dad were there. They were there today, you know? That could be another reason she acted different.
Yeah, well, all I know is that she is definitely different today. The whole courtroom demeanor was different today. Even the cameraman today acted different today. Y'all got to admit it. Did not focus in on Lori as much as they did the last hearing. And it's my opinion, and I hate to be wrong on it, but I mean, in terms of being right about it, and I wish I was wrong, is that the media did make an ass of themselves at the last hearing. And although we all looked at it and was glad that we could see just how evil and diabolical she is, the bottom line is because they showed their ass, the media showed their ass and did what they did.
Yeah.
This is an excuse for Judge Boyce now.
And they can't stop the public opinion of the damn defendants. What are they going to tell us? What to think next? How we can we can't, call them out because they're assholes?
Well, I'll tell you, that's a great point, Cresha, because that right attorney for the media organizations was talking about it. It ain't that we've sensationalized everything, which they did actually last time. But he did say, he said, it's the actions of the defendant. I mean, everybody wants to know how a mother could murder her children.
Yes.
How, everyone wants, and everyone has a stake in watching this simply because it is justice unfolding, and it is something that could deter other people from watching and believing this crazy stuff that they believe.
Right.
And
Right.
it's just, and I think that gets lost in it all.
Yes.
Who actually has a right? Just the citizens of Idaho have a right to go into that courtroom? I mean, you got Big E traveling in his home state of Ohio to the Wagner trial. He has a right to be there, but why can't other people from other states or even around the world see how our judicial process works? It's supposed to be open and transparent, but it's not supposed to be so blown up and so one-sided, and it has been, Cresha.
I
It
know.
has been, and she deserves every damn thing she gets.
Skippy, she does.
But it has been, and Judge Boyce was correct in that. Why not show the camera in the last hearing equally between the judge and the prosecutor and the gallery and things of that? They gave her 30 minutes of that. Well, guess what? The woman's a damn child killer. She murdered her children and allowed that fat ass chin husband of hers to bury them like damn animals in the backyard of his residence.
Right. Right. And as y'all heard, if anybody watched the Netflix thing, oh my God, to hear Lori telling Colby she missed the damn kids. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, why would she miss the kids? I didn't watch the Netflix thing. I boycotted it. I'm a little month early. I'm going to be doing stuff for the month of October for domestic violence, but why would she miss them? Huh? Because she don't have no more money? Because she's indigent and she needed her kids' money? Is that what it is? Because it
That
sure wasn't their loving and beautiful lives that she cared about.
that's what Colby argued back to her. You know, he was like, "They're murdered." You know, I mean, it was
Did she agree with that?
he I don't know. I have it. I can't play it because I'm able to use my computer. So I have it on my phone. And I don't think I can. Maybe I can. Y'all, I learn new things every day. So let me try. I'll play that one bit. Maybe it'll hear me. Can y'all hear me still?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. That's all that counts. Let me go to my videos in my phone. So y'all are just gonna hear it. You're not gonna see it. Um, okay, I gotta figure out where this happened. Uh,
And while you're doing that, Leanne Ferguson is talking about a petition.com. She's listed the link and she also says, let me know if there is a problem with it, guys, please, so I can correct it. Much love, says Leanne Ferguson.
Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much. I went to play it, but it kicked the mic off, so I won't be able to do it. But yeah, I found that to be very telling, and I heard a lot of things and saw a lot of things that I didn't know.
Well, I was getting the opposite feedback. A lot of people were telling me that it was already stuff we'd already known.
Unless they know of something I don't. I don't know.
So, I mean, but, maybe they were just telling me that because I chose not to watch it. But, it isn't because I trust me, I had like sweat beads going down my head, hypothetically, about wanting to watch it. But I wanted to stay strong on it because I'm only going to bring this up one time.
But
And that is,
the family,
you
not
know,
just free.
the bottom line is that I don't believe Kelsey made all that up. And even if she did, it's a good time to spotlight domestic violence and what that can do. And Lori had plenty of domestic violence on her husband, Charles, because that includes mind games and every damn thing else. The same for Joe. The bottom line is that she was the domestic violence perpetrator. Lori was.
Yep.
And that's the way I see it. She is disgusting. She is going to get everything that's coming to her. And cameras or no cameras, I can tell y'all right now that these victims' family members, they are going to see this through all the way. And, OKJ might not be around, but the bottom line is this: we're going to get justice. You just wait. It's going to happen. And we'll just have to wait on that order from the judge on the cameras. The only other thing I can say is perhaps he will say, okay, one camera, no microphones, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll balance this out, but at this point, he's got all the excuse in the world, and those 30 media organizations, they can all pat themselves on the back for all the coverage they gave at her last hearing and made her look the way she did, even though that they probably brought out what she really is.
Right.
The bottom line is that they gave the judge an excuse. There'd never been a problem before. And anytime you're going through pretrial stuff, those defense attorneys are going to pounce on anything and all. Don't you find it interesting that John Pryor hasn't filed anything in saying, yeah, we want cameras or we don't want cameras. Back when Rob Wood said no cameras at Chad's preliminary hearing, John Pryor was like, we deserve for everyone to see what's going on here. And so I don't know. And then of course many of y'all have already figured out that Pryor is distancing Chad from all of this until they necessarily have to have him there. And poor Lori's just going to have to go back to her jail cell and play with herself.
I Oh, and I want to quote Big E from our little group text when he said, "Chad ducking her like she got syphilis." Cracked me up yesterday. I
I'm
said,
telling you that you can't take it any other way.
you just have to watch, and I'm learning all this. This is all a whole brand new aspect for me. Like all this stuff, everything, all this stuff is all, and I say new to me. I mean, I've been doing it for 3 years, over 3 years now, but it was all new. I just never had to delve into these things, these aspects, the body language of anybody. I didn't really give a shit. And I mean, that's just, it is what it is. I am who I was, or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
well, let's just look at it in this way. If everyone thinks that Alex is going to be blamed from Lori's side or Chad's side, right? If they think and Alex is the one that did all this, one of them had to have been in cahoots for it to even work. And so that tells you everything you need to know. Although I believe they have evidence on both Lori and Chad in conspiracy with Alex, but it just seems to me that if Alex was the one that done it, then why wouldn't Lori and Chad be there together going, "We didn't do this. Alex did this." You
yeah.
know?
And that's a majority of people do think that, what's going to take place. They're going to point the finger at, you know, and, I, I don't know. It's odd that we hear nothing from Melanie Gibb, nothing from Melanie Pulowski,
Oh, you
nothing.
got from everyone's saying that everyone was feeling for Janice and everything. Well, on this
I,
Netflix thing, Janice, she's the one that tipped. This was in text messages. This isn't my theory.
mm,
She let Lori know about Adam and Charles. She's the one. She's the one that tipped Lori off. She's the one that was, oh yeah, Lori, whatever you say, Lori, knowing. And most importantly, the day that Zach Cox saw Tylee at Janice and Barry's, it was Janice that pushed Tylee past Zach so that Tylee couldn't talk to Zach. Zach swears that he felt like Tylee wanted to talk to him. And Adam has already said that he told Janice out loud that day, Charles has been murdered, and that Janice gave him a look. She knew all about this. She knew all about it. So anyone that wants to feel bad for her, you're more than willing and welcome to do it. But the bottom line is I have no sympathy for that woman, and I have no sympathy for Barry, and I have no sympathy for the whole Cox family,
yep.
Summer, any of the rest of them,
Nope.
because they knew this stuff was going on. They knew
Hmm.
it was going down.
Summer Cox Shiflett in the text messages even volunteered. You want me to go kill him myself?
Yeah, well, whether that was literal or not, she should have realized that she should have not even been a part of any of that, especially knowing what Charles had done for that whole family.
Yeah, but he
It's
was like,
it's
well, show me. What do y'all do to people y'all don't like? Holy shit. You know?
well, nobody was there for Lori today, were they? But I'll
They
tell you what, Kay and Larry, they were there for JJ and Tylee and for Tammy, and you know, I don't know who's talking to Lori these days and her little jail phone calls, but the bottom line is that Janice, Barry, Kobe,
Adam
they
too.
had their little Netflix deal, and they said their side of things. It's funny how she's come out like that now, but back then she did everything in her power. Because you know why she did everything in her power? Why Janice did that? Wasn't because Janice was her mother and was just going to protect her daughter. She didn't think that those bodies would ever be found. That's what she thought.
Um, it's so it's so dysfunctional, and they enabled this. If they didn't take part in it, the blood on their hands is from enabling a murderer to murder these victims. So I don't feel like they get a right. They don't get a right to um be victims themselves, if you will. I don't know how to say that properly.
Yeah,
It's
well, Missy Bancroft kind of says it to me when she says, "Who talks like that? Good Mormons?" I think not. The bottom line is who's attending church today? Who's going to the temple today? That's what I want to know.
and yeah, I hope they change things in as far as what they can, what they do in temple, because there's these women who, and we see this in the text messages and from Melanie Gibbs' statements and stuff, saying that they're in the temple and they're holding hands and praying death on their loved ones. So I just, and like Lori being or saying that she was at the temple every day, which was abnormal according to, what we've learned from other members of the church, that's not normal. That's excessive. So I hope and pray, there's no way of knowing, but I hope that the church has paid attention to that and will be flagged if any of that behavior ever occurs again. Because it happened on their property. It happened in their sacred place, in the Holy of Holies, right there in their temple.
Yeah,
And
well, if it's so sacred, it sure wouldn't be being guarded properly or whatever for people to go in there, Lori and Chad go in there and do some kind of mock ceremony and all that other stuff. It's really absolutely. I mean, and this, you think of all the people out here, including myself, that are ignorant about how all that works in that religion. What
no,
we're left at our own trying to figure it out. And I don't see anyone coming out and saying, we're so sorry for what happened to these tithing, paying members. And here's a statement that we want to make clear. I mean,
yeah,
they'll make clear about all the sexual abuse allegations from the Associated Press. They'll get in there and give a big, long statement about that. But they
yep,
won't give a long statement about something that begs to. People want to know where the church stands on that. If they want their credibility, if they want to be left alone to worship in their own way or not talked down on or misunderstood or anything like that, they need to come out and in one voice say, show some sympathy, show some compassion for their church members that were murdered.
hello.
I'm here.
Okay, my phone, it sounded like it was in a damn water tank. I don't
Oh,
know. I was like, I give up. Shit.
well, if I sounded like I was in a water tank, maybe that's for the best. But I'll tell you this,
No.
Pressure, listening to your opening statements after the hearing and everything, it just dawns on me more and more that every time we get news, every time we have a hearing, every time we have something go on, I just hope that people will think of the victims' family members first and what they're going through in all of this. Because if you're not thinking that first and foremost over your curiosity or your desire, even to get justice through understanding, if you're not thinking of the victims' families first, then to
Why are
me, and
you
it's
here?
just my opinion, something's wrong.
Why are you here? What is your interest in this? Is it just some people are just in it for the entertainment? Some people are in it because they're dealing with things in their own personal lives. There are people who genuinely freaking care, and there are people who are really fighting, and also fighting for the justice for the victims.
I've
Um,
always said the best that anybody could do is to support difficult research, your channel, help you get to the trial without worrying about things because of your fixed income. There's nothing to me more important than that. Even more important than justice through understanding, as far as I'm concerned. It took me a while to get to know you and realize that there was more to it than just trying to understand this case.
yeah, I
I
saw.
realized I was ashamed. Really, I was like, well,
I, I watched you progress in that though, because I was growing with you, and I just couldn't talk to you. I couldn't just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, well, this is what's really what I see it as," or whatever. And you did an amazing job. And I remember the at I remember when you kind of accepted the fact that it was a cult or whatever, because we still don't. We're still. I still go back and forth with that, you know. Uh,
It was the
but
formation of one.
yeah,
That was what it was.
but there's
And
still more
and if
people
you
that
played it out, and they would have never gotten busted, you could see where they were going with it. Basically, I see where it was going, but
I
you
just
know,
loved. I watched you grow in that also, you know, and
make
to
plenty of mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. I've said things that I look back on now and I think, that was me out of my own ignorance and not really knowing, just kind of making a decision about how I felt about something instead of really looking at the empirical information and all that. But I've met a lot of wonderful people along the way. You're one of the best people in all this, and I love you. And guess what? Jen was on here at the beginning of the stream. Do you know that?
oh, I didn't know.
Yes, she was. She came on and she said She said, "I miss everyone. I love you," or whatever. And I told her, I said, "It's not the same without you." And Kathy
My-
said hello and all that. So she came on before you came on. She was on the chat, and and it just perked me right up. I said, "There's Jen. There's Jen."
oh my gosh.
So
I
she,
telling Kathy yesterday, I was like, I'm almost to the point where I'll max out a credit card, one-way ticket, and just go to our damn doorstep, and I will camp out until trial time. You
yeah,
know, I
she's
forgot to tell her.
yeah. I think Kathy said something about, and I'm sure you're aware of. She's got all this schooling she's going through, and that's got to be the priority and all that. So plus this other stuff that happened to her. And if I could just get a hold of anyone who would even go there like that, I'd ring their bell. I hate that that's happened to her, and I just hope
We
she'll get back.
Yeah, it's
But
that
she
whole
was on here. She was. I was so proud that she knew you were going to be here and everything. But
I want to tell her
folks,
coded the damn that damn Reddit email, and it's important. But I need to talk to her. It just
yeah,
is hard.
yeah. What I want to say, because I'm gonna have to get off here, but what I wanted to say is that y'all saw the difference. All of y'all saw the difference between Lori's last hearing and this one. It's undeniable. Y'all understand that now because the media pulled that crap last time. They say in their defense that they weren't doing anything that the judge wasn't allowing them to do. And then you've got even the state and the defense basically saying that they were just running wild within those confines of what, the judge had not made it so specific that they just weren't being policed. And y'all see the difference between that. Now you have, because if that wouldn't have happened before, I could sit here and say that the judge has no excuse for not allowing cameras, but now he does, and that's what bothers me about all this.
Yeah.
And finally, before I get off here, Krisha, I love you. I want all of y'all to know that the trial is obviously coming up. We all need to do what we can. Thank all of y'all for every little bit that y'all can, donation wise, to help Krisha and her trial costs. It means so much, and it's the best that anybody could ever do. If you ever wanted to do something for someone who's a victim of this terrible, terrible case, I just want y'all to know how much I love all of y'all for doing all y'all have done for her and Krisha. You did a great live last time. You blew it out of the park.
What the hell? I told Jason as soon as I got off there. I said, YouTube must be having some malfunction.
No, you did great, and you're getting I think sometimes you think you can't just be on your own about this, but I'm telling you, girl, you pull it out of yourself, and you're so good at it. And I almost didn't want to ask for the link because I thought, well, she's doing so good on her own,
Oh, no.
but I'm just biting
Teamwork.
at the bit.
Teamwork makes the dream work. I'm
Yeah,
all about it, and it's not about me, and it's about what everybody thinks. It's about how everybody feels. Um, and we all feel and think all kinds of things, and that's how we learn. That's the main thing, and I mean, you've taught me that justice through understanding is really the only way to it.
Yeah, but it has to be from everyone's own perspective. Nobody can define that for you or anyone
Exactly.
else. It's got to be what, but it has to be something good with integrity.
There you go.
It can't just be something where you're monetize. You're a victim's family member. There's a reason why you monetize. I don't think anyone else should be monetizing, but victims' family members. But that's just me. And but what I'm saying is that everyone, if they're going to go into something, it should always, and I will define this, it should be about the victims and the victims' family members. Period. Nothing. Everything else after that, that's fine. But it should always be a priority for victims and victims' family members.
I really appreciate it, AJ. You've taught me and you're teaching me still. It was a hard decision, very tough for me to make to monetize. And then I remember thinking, what would my uncle want? And, it came to me right away. And then you look at all these other channels, they're not family members, they're monetized,
And nobody ever says anything about that, do they?
Right.
And they don't say anything about the 30 media organizations that just want to take their time out of their busy schedule. If y'all were watching very closely in this hearing, y'all noticed the attorney for the media organization said, "May I be excused?" He was out the door very quickly. He was out the door very quickly after his presentation. He had other clients to deal with. He's not personally invested in this. Crescia has been through trauma throughout this whole process in 3 years. Every time something happens, this is a personal, emotional, and spiritual investment that she's made. And y'all, I'm sure all of y'all know that. I don't mean to sound like I'm just breaking the news, because there ain't no breaking it to it.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to know where to go on any social media platform, they need to be going on a victim's family member's platform. That's where it's at. That's where it needs to
difference in
stay.
my opinion. It's going to be genuine. Yes, it takes money to make money. It takes money. I've spent a buttload, and I have over this period of time, and I didn't care. It didn't matter. It still doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I have to do to get what? Justice through understanding, right? And to make things happen, and things cost money. That's just the reality of life, unfortunately. Am I begging or panhandling? I'm like, I don't want people to think that at all, because that's not what I'm here for, at all.
Well,
But
you would be here regardless. I know you well enough to know you would be here regardless. Your opinions, your feelings, all of that matters to me more than anything else that anyone else has to say. A victim's family member, that is the priority. That is the most important thing. And if people can't see that, and if they can go, hey, even going to KJ and the Ray, if you go to KJ and the Ray, you can listen to me. I might seem a little out there and all this and that, but my opinions really, in the long run, don't matter as much at all compared to Crescia or any victim's family member at all. And speaking of that, Crescia, I've told everybody on my community wall that I'm giving it a break. I'm dropping off the grid. I'm over here. Went to a hunting thing yesterday. I'm over here at Bristol Motor Speedway for the weekend. I'm taking some time away from all this, but I wasn't going to take time away from being there to support you, because I love you. I believe in you. I think you're incredible, and I think you're doing an incredible job. Kathy Mama Bear, man, that woman rocks. Big E, Jen, and all of y'all that are here, that I keep seeing these names here that are there for Crescia, whether it's monetization, whether it's through emotional, spiritual, prayers, whatever. Y'all are the best of the best. Y'all been sent to Crescia.
God's army.
That's right. But I'm gonna leave out now, so y'all keep on looking.
We love you too. It's just Robbie. We won't ever forget about you, honey. I love you guys. I'll talk to y'all next time. I get to pick my brother up, I think Friday, for a weekend pass from rehab. So I get to visit with my brother. JJ's biological father. So I cannot wait to see my brother. I miss him. And in that sense, I guess I'll get to get away for a little bit. So I'll be traveling Friday. And I don't know. Sunday is when he goes back. And so I don't know if I can do a live stream while in transit. I don't know how that would go. So I wanted to get back on to the Melanie Pulowski, Ian Pulowski, the Boudreaux saga, and more about that French press. You know, that, yeah, more about the French press, more about the Malachite thing, just kind of delve into that a little more. And if I ever can talk to Jen, maybe one day I'll figure out a way where I can kind of tell you guys how, and what I decoded in that infamous Reddit email. It's bonkers. I'm thinking about just letting, doing that on my Patreon app. Or I'm sorry, I don't even know what to call these things. They're so different. But anyways, it's just a little more enlightening. It says so much. And I wasn't even trying to decode it. I was like, "Oh my God." It just kind of clicked for me. So I appreciate every one of you that are here day after day, week after week, and y'all are on this journey with us. And honestly, if it wasn't for you guys, I don't feel like I'd have the strength to go on. You guys really do enable that. So pat yourself on the back. But I love you guys. Remember that love always wins. And always, 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 let's keep the victims in the forefront. Charles, Tylee, Tammy, JJ, and Joe. They are who matters here. It's their stories, and they deserve to be told correctly. So I love you guys. Thank you for, oh yeah. I don't even know where to go. Carol M on here, she went and created a petition about having the, I guess, about having the trial, these court hearings and stuff public, like what we went to court for today. So as soon as I get off here, I can think and move around, and we'll spread that petition link so that everybody can sign, so that we can have some transparency here. I mean, that would be nice. But anyways, I love you guys, and I will talk to you next time. And see you later. Wait a second.